chaos in Brazil as thousands of supporters of far-right former President Jair Bolsonaro stormed the country's capital protesting October's election results.
Ninguém imaginou que pudesse acontecer uma coisa daquele porte, daquela extensão.
Foi uma tentativa de golpe, uma tentativa de criar uma situação de golpe.
Coup d'etats, dictatorships, revolutions, and civil wars. For decades, Latin America has been something of a testing ground for an increasingly violent, polarized, and chaotic world.
The history of Latin America over the past 60 years is like what happens when a hurricane comes through. It sweeps everything in its passing, it leaves behind devastation, and then, of course, comes the rebuilding until a new hurricane comes.
This series examines the modern history of Latin America and focuses on 6 countries: Brazil, Chile, Panama, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Colombia. It hears from politicians, journalists, and ordinary people, each with their own perspectives, on the political upheavals that have characterized a divided continent under the constant eye of its powerful neighbor, the United States. In the post-World War II era, Latin America has shifted between democratic outbursts and authoritarian rule. In 1964, in the largest economic power in the region, Brazil, the progressive President João Goulart rallied the country around a dream of social justice.
Testemunho da nação, o governo reafirma seus propósitos inabaláveis de lutar com todas as suas forças pela reforma da sociedade brasileira.
Isso eu tinha acabado de entrar na universidade, tinha 18 anos. Foi de longe a maior manifestação que eu participei. Mas tinha coisas que ele mencionou que ficaram muito fortes para mim naquele tempo e que, de fato, parece que foram as que marcaram também a elite brasileira naquela época.
Trabalhadores do campo já poderão, então, ver concretizada a sua mais sentida e justa reivindicação, aquela que dará pedaço de terra para ele cultivar.
A reforma agrária era a primeira vez que se transformava no tema realmente de choque, porque os presidentes anteriores não haviam tocado.
Mas só a ideia de distribuir terra num país de latifundiários, de grandes proprietários de terra que tinham muito poder, foi extremamente ofensiva.
For anti-Goulart forces, this was a clear indication that he was determined to impose this new regime, socialism, whatever you want to call in Brazil, and he needed to be stopped.
This was at the height of the Cold War, and Goulart's actions began to trouble the U.S. administration. President Lyndon Johnson asked his advisors to brief him.
Hello? Mr. President, this is George Ball. Yes, George. A quick rundown of the situation in Brazil. They have drafted an impeachment in congressional circles of Goulart, and there's a lot of dickering around to see what could be done.
I think we ought to take every step that we can, be prepared to do everything that we need to do. We just can't take this one, and I'd get right on top of it and stick my neck out a little.
It's incredible to see the president talking about the possibility of an actual intervention in Brazil. But nobody can forget that the Cuban Revolution had taken place in 1959, and that kind of U.S. policy towards Latin America was now geared towards stopping other Cubas.
The seizure of power by Fidel Castro in Cuba had traumatized the United States. The idea that a Soviet-aligned guerrilla chief held sway on an island just 90 miles from American shores was a source of great anxiety.
It's hard today to imagine for many people what the Cold War was really like. There was real fear about Russia. I spent a lot of time combating communism. I joined the agency in the 60s, and most of my career dealt with countering Russian aggression around the world.
Gulag's social reforms and his refusal to boycott countries in the Soviet bloc sealed his fate. In Washington, Lyndon Johnson feared that another Latin American country might slip into communist hands. He ordered U.S. forces to support the Brazilian military, if necessary, in removing him.
President Johnson wants the U.S. to be militarily positioned to both support the coup, but also bringing arms, ammunition, all the elements that a military would need to sustain an effort to overthrow a government.
Encouraged by the American promise of help, some Brazilian generals turned against the government and moved on Rio de Janeiro on the 31st of March, 1964. Parts of the population joined them.
Fui andar pela cidade para ver o que estava acontecendo. A gente passou ali na frente da sede da União das Nações Unidas, estava sendo atacada por civis armados, mas com bombas de gasolina. Sequer intimaram a uma rendição. Os caras estavam ali para matar.
Não podemos permitir que o Brasil fique sem governo abandonado. Assim sendo, declaro vaga a presidência da República.
The military plotters overthrew Goulart before the American forces even arrived. But the U.S. was the first country to recognize Brazil's new leaders, granting them the legitimacy they needed to hold on to power.
The generals who pulled off the coup soon became household names to the Brazilian public. Branco, Silva, and Medici, the most hardline of them all. Brazil's military dictatorship was the first of its kind in the region. And this created a model that other kindred regimes in the region would attempt to follow in the future.
Em menos de um ano, os militares suspenderam as eleições de 65, depois suspenderam os partidos e finalmente acabaram com as eleições diretas para a presidência da República. Final de agosto de 69, quando eu fui preso e levado e depois entregue para a Marinha. E aí começaram 4 a 5 dias, eu perdi um pouco a noção do tempo, entendi, a violência praticada de forma sistemática. Então, eu recebi choques elétricos na mão, fui pendurado no pau de arara. O pau de arara pode ser extremamente doloroso. Você fica pendurado pelos pés e as mãos nu, a torção nos músculos e dos membros é tão forte que você desmaia. Eu desmaiei mais de uma vez.
Jean-Marc Van der Weijs was finally freed on the 16th of January 1971, along with 69 other detainees. They were immediately sent into exile in Chile.
Eu me lembro que eu apaguei ali, e acordei com um dos trocados, gritando para todo mundo: se acorda, gente! Olha os Andes, olha os Andes! A gente estava passando por cima dos Andes, noite de lua. Tem os Andes, neve brilhando, todo mundo... Aí começou aquele negócio: estamos chegando. No momento que eu desço as escadas do avião em Santiago do Chile, é outra coisa, você começa a respirar, né? Quer dizer, sair daquele estado de tensão.
Chile had become a safe haven for political refugees since Salvador Allende's election in November 1970. Allende was trying something different, to establish a socialist state without resorting to violence.
La victoria de un hombre, sino que la victoria del pueblo y la victoria de Chile. Por eso, el pueblo entrará conmigo a la moneda.
El 4 de septiembre de 1970 es la primera vez que un presidente socialista pretende una transición al socialismo, no una reforma, un cambio más estructural. Entonces yo tenía 30 años, 31 años, y el presidente me llamó y me preguntó si podía acompañarlo.
Another young economist joined the Allende government, Orlando Letelier.
My father was a very strong supporter of Allende and had been an ally with him for many, many years. 90% of the people in Chile had nothing, and 10% had everything. And they believed very strongly in having things more egalitarian.
Washington was already suspicious of this socialist government. But then, in November 1971, Salvador Allende rolled out the red carpet for Cuban President Fidel Castro.
He was Taylor Swift of its day, so that when he would travel to places with huge crowds, and we did keep track of it.
La Revolución Cubana tenía 8 años, 10 años. Estaba en su periodo de auge, con un líder atractivo que derrota en Bahía Cochinos a los norteamericanos. Para los latinoamericanos es un gesto de coraje.
Algo extraordinario en Chile está ocurriendo, un proceso insólito. Es un proceso revolucionario donde los revolucionarios tratan de llevar adelante los cambios pacíficamente.
Como no tenemos la fórmula secreta, no sabe igual. Lo sabe mejor. ¿Es mejor la cubana?
Se queda más de un mes, recorre el país y entonces va despertando un sentimiento revolucionario que no está en la cultura nacional ni podía hacerse en Chile.
I ended up being the scribe, sending back to Washington every speech and every event. Castro's speeches were quite incendiary. And that added to the concern in Washington that the real game here is revolution.
There wasn't any question about his turning all the screws that he possibly could in the direction of making Chile a Marxist state. There wasn't any question but that he was cooperating with Castro. There wasn't any question that Chile was being used by some of Castro's agents as a base to export terrorism to Argentina, to Bolivia, to Brazil.
For the US, the threat in Chile came from the left-wing activists who, like the Brazilians Jean-Marc Van der Weij and Almino Afonso, had found a safe haven there.
All of a sudden, a country that historically had very warm relations with Brazil becomes this huge threat. Chile could become a mecca for insurgency, and Brazil had to do something about it, and do something about it quickly.
Brazilian leader General Emílio Médici decided to consult his closest ally.
Medici goes to Washington to be received as this friendly leader, and they get along really well.
Nixon actually asks General Medici about his opinions about what's going to happen with Allende in Chile. And Medici responds, he will suffer the same fate as Goulart.
The Brazilians were already working with the Chilean military to see it happen. But the Chilean military didn't have the tradition that the Brazilians had to interfere frequently in politics. So you had to try to convince more and more senior people in the military that Allende posed an existential threat. And Nixon basically responded, let me know how I can help.
Chile, of course, is interested in obtaining loans from international organizations where we have a vote. And I indicated that wherever we had a vote, where Chile was involved, that we would vote against them.
Nixon orchestrated what was known as an invisible blockade. They had quietly cut off U.S. credits to Chile, but they'd also gone to the multilateral banks to make sure that no loans from international lending institutions went to Chile, and that contributed to the shortages that Chile experienced.
No se puede trabajar estando haciendo cola para comprar la leche, para comprar el pan.
Porque este gobierno que no debe estar. No hay pan. Impotente.
Allende tried desperately to cope with the situation that was unraveling around him.
My father was sort of like a peacemaker. He started first as Minister of Foreign Affairs, and then was quickly moved to Minister of the Interior and ended up being Minister of the Defense. So they were moving him around to positions that were, you know, the most difficult to deal with for Allende.
The Allende government tried but failed to prevent public anger from rising.
The growing social unrest gave the military the excuse it needed to strike. And on September 11th, it did.
7 da manhã, colega meu me telefona. Almino, começou o golpe. Exatamente, começou o golpe. Como começou o golpe? Almino, põe o rádio.
Las Fuerzas Armadas y Carabineros de Chile declaran que el señor presidente de la República debe proceder a la inmediata entrega de su alto cargo. El pueblo de Santiago debe permanecer en sus casas.
And they were saying there's a state of siege, toque de queda, don't go outside. And we were worried about my dad, what's happening with my dad.
El Palacio de la Moneda deberá ser evacuado antes de las...
Shortly thereafter, rockets were released by the Air Force over the river.
Y yo siento eso desde el lugar en que estoy. Los aviones pasar. La Fuerza Aérea de Chile bombardea La Moneda. De todas las estaciones de radio, quedaba una, la Radio Magallanes, y sale la voz de Allende.
Trabajadores de mi patria, tengo la certeza que la semilla que entregáramos a la conciencia digna de miles y miles de chilenos no podrá ser cegada definitivamente. La historia es nuestra y la hacen los pueblos. Pagaré con mi vida la lealtad del pueblo. Tienen la fuerza.
And then he said he hoped that in the future it's still an amazing moment, right? He said that he hoped that in the future people who wanted to bring social change would once again march down the grand avenue called La Alameda. And then he went off the air.
So my father called me on the phone saying that Allende had died. And I will always remember that after hanging the phone, I looked at the window and I saw life going on, as if nothing happened. And for us Chileans, it was the destruction of our country.
El país, the country, atravesaba por una honda crisis, was going through a deep crisis, moral, económic, social. El gobierno llevaba al caos a la nación. En primer lugar, el interés ha sido volver al país a la normalidad.
The man who took control of the coup was General Augusto Pinochet, the head of the army. He immediately began to hunt down suspected subversives, communists, leftists of all stripes.
Sale un bando militar llamándome a presentarme a las Fuerzas Armadas, o que si no, pueden matarme. Y ahí tomo una reacción instintiva. Me voy a presentar.
There's a picture of my dad being surrounded by a bunch of guys with machine guns. One of them was his own bodyguard.
Empiezan a llegar otros ministros y juntan a unos 30, 35. Se toma la decisión de enviarnos lejos, a una isla al sur del estrecho de Magallanes que se llama Dawson. Llegamos, nos amarraron. Ese fue un momento en que yo pensé que nos iban a fusilar a todos.
Since already 6 months, we have been here without any contact with our lawyers, without any contact with our families.
We did not know if my dad was dead or alive. We found out finally because a priest smuggled some stones that my dad had carved for each one of us.
What sort of jobs are you doing?
Well, we dig holes and we put poles for electric transmission.
Yeah.
We make some repair in the road.
Orlando Letelier, en la isla, lo conocí con más profundidad. Él mostró una personalidad resistente, afectuosa y comprometida.
Sergio Bitar and Orlando Letelier remained in forced labor on Dawson Island for 9 long months. Meanwhile, Pinochet began to devise ways of extending his regime's crackdown on so-called dissidents across the whole continent of Latin America. After General Augusto Pinochet took power in a coup in Chile in September 1973, he and his military junta cracked down on anyone they saw as dissidents and forced many into hard labor. However, after 9 months, an international campaign forced Pinochet to release some of the detainees. Sergio Bitar and Orlando Letelier went into exile in the United States.
But before my father left, Pinochet said, "Wherever you go, I will find you. I will find you no matter what."
Pinochet asked the head of his secret services to come up with a plan that would allow him to go after his opposition in neighboring countries.
The Chilean secret police chief sent personal invitations to the intelligence chieftains of 5 different countries, Brazil, Bolivia, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, to come to Santiago secretly and hold an inaugural meeting.
And he presented a plan. The plan was to coordinate their intelligence, to allow each government security forces to operate inside each other's countries and to do joint operations.
The intelligence agencies invited to take part were mainly from countries with right-wing dictatorships, all determined to purge the continent of what they saw as dissident groups.
At the end of the meeting, the Uruguayan stands up And he says, we should name this organization Condor for the national bird of Chile. And so it became Operation Condor. The main target, of course, was Argentina because thousands and thousands of exiles had gathered in Argentina.
E quando eu fui para Buenos Aires, eu fui com a intenção de ficar em Buenos Aires. E a gente ficou com a sensação de que aquilo ali ia ser o novo reduto progressista depois que o Chile tinha caído. Até que as coisas foram ficando cada vez mais pesadas.
Allende's former army chief, General Carlos Prats, had sought refuge in Argentina after the coup. His assassination by bombing in downtown Buenos Aires became Operation Condor's future modus operandi.
When this happened, we began telling Orlando Letelier, Orlando, you have to be careful. Because he was the leader of the resistance against Pinochet abroad. But Orlando never accepted the idea that he could be in the list of people to be killed here, because he said they will never dare to do this in Washington.
A powerful bomb today tore through a car as it was driving along Washington's usually quiet Embassy Road.
I was at the university. A lady came up to me and said, "Are you Christian Letelier?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "You better call home." And when I called home, my mom was crying and said, "You have to come back."
Fue un shock. Pero ¿cuál es la audacia de esta dictadura? Significaba que todos estábamos en peligro, entonces los que vivíamos después allí mirábamos siempre para atrás.
I remember my mother, having us all go to see my father. He was so young, 44, and now his body was mutilated and blown off at the legs. She said to us, remember what they did. Remember what they did.
Orlando Letelier was one of the most significant victims of Operation Condor. By the end of the 1970s, the Condor Network had been responsible for the murder, torture, and disappearance of thousands of people across the whole continent.
For Jimmy Carter, who'd promised to bring morality back into American politics, it was no longer possible for the United States to associate itself with these sorts of regimes.
We've seen in the past a destruction of elected governments like in Chile and the strong support of military dictatorship there. These kinds of things have hurt us very much.
We were euphoric, we couldn't believe it. And we were extremely hopeful when Carter won the election.
Newly elected Jimmy Carter and his idea of a fairer American policy raised hopes across Latin America. Panama was the first country to try and take advantage of it. This small country that links North and South America had been trying for years to take back control of its most precious resource, the Panama Canal.
The canal was the moonshot of the early 20th century. It was something that was supposedly impossible, and the U.S. succeeded in it. It was a huge accomplishment.
Se construyó el canal, pero los panameños quedamos atrapados casi por 100 años en un tratado muy desigual.
The deal that the Americans struck in Panama was an incredible one. Not only did they have control over the waterway in perpetuity, but of a strip of land that went from the Pacific to the Atlantic and in which they had absolute control.
The canal zone is 10 miles wide and 40 miles long. Panamanians call it a colonial enclave which cuts their country in two.
Panamanians, in order to go from one part of their country to the other, had to go through a zone with American police. If they got a speeding ticket, they had to go to American courts and so on.
Tenían sus propios comisariatos, sus propios colegios, sus propias cines, su propio entretenimiento. Todo era distinto. Fue fundamentalmente un estado dentro de otro estado. La zona del canal fue una vergüenza, una humillación permanente para Panamá y para los panameños.
Era una fuente de frustración porque sabíamos lo que valíamos como país y nos sentíamos excluidos totalmente y humillados y muy maltratados en realidad.
In 1968, a young National Guard colonel tapped into this growing resentment. Omar Torrijos was a dictator unlike any others that the hemisphere had seen. He was a populist, but he was also progressive.
Gracias, pueblo panameño. Gracias, hombres y mujeres de nuestra patria. ¿Qué pueblo del mundo soporta la humillación de ver una bandera enclavada en su propio corazón? Que lo diga.
For Torrijos, the return of the canal was everything. But this was a David versus Goliath challenge, and he couldn't do it on his own. So he sought out international allies.
La estrategia del general Torrijos era de visitar a todos los líderes del mundo que pudiera, no importaba su tendencia, para convencerlos de la justicia que amparaba el petitorio panameño.
Queremos decirle a la conciencia mundial que nunca hemos sido, que no somos, ni nunca seremos, ni Estado asociado, ni colonia o protectorado, ni queremos agregarle más una estrella a la bandera de los Estados Unidos. Muchas gracias.
The U.S. agreed to renegotiate the Panama Canal Treaty. Jimmy Carter was prepared to give the enclave and the canal back to Panama if American troops were allowed to remain in the country.
The canal is very, very vulnerable to sabotage. Panama by itself couldn't defend the canal, and so we wanted some residual rights to protect the canal. Without that, we had no chance of getting it through the Congress, and we had to have it.
There is one word for this new treaty, and that word is no.
We, the people who own the canal, should say to our government, look, tell Mr. Torrijos that we built that thing, we bought the place, we paid for it, and we intend to keep it.
Carter le dijo al general Torrijos, o me ayudas o esto no camina. El general Torrijos nos dijo, creo que tengo frente a mí un hombre de gran moral que es el presidente Carter. Demos el salto, resolvamos este problema.
Torrijos aceptó que la duración del canal fuera de 22 años y que durante ese tiempo existieran las bases militares.
We are here to participate in the signing of treaties which will assure a peaceful and prosperous and secure future for an international waterway of great importance to us all.
Consideramos que usted, señor presidente Carter, al enarbolar la moralidad como bandera en nuestras relaciones, está representando el verdadero espíritu de su pueblo.
It just changed the nature of the relationship, that it was now a relationship more of sovereign equals rather than dominant power and subordinate powers.
fue una victoria para todo el continente. Era una lucha con un resultado muy singular, porque todas las demás fueron luchas sangrientas, terribles. El general Torrijos fue uno de esos pocos generales que su espada nunca se manchó de sangre.
Torrijos had worked very hard to rally support for the Canal Treaty. But for him, the celebration itself was bittersweet. One leader notably did not attend, and it was the dictator of neighboring Nicaragua, Anastasio Somoza.
Somoza se alió con los senadores reaganistas que estaban dispuestos a tumbar el acuerdo. Y Torrijos nos dijo, o él o nosotros.
General, I've been told that your wealth is in the neighborhood of $500 million.
Well, that's what the people who adverse me say that. But I think we're around $100 million.
You own the leading television station?
Yes.
Radio station? You own a newspaper?
Yes.
You own hundreds of thousands of acres of land?
Yes.
You own huge financial interests in banks and insurance companies? And you
yes,
still...
we could go on and on.
I mean, the list is very long of Somoza interests that you and your family own. General, how do you address your conscience when you see the faces of all these poor people in Nicaragua and contrast that with your own tremendous personal wealth?
I wish I had more wealth so they would be more wealthier.
Los Estados Unidos, de alguna manera, son los progenitores de esa dictadura. Vieron en la dictadura de los Somoza una forma de tener estabilidad en Nicaragua, en el área de seguridad del Canal de Panamá.
But President Anastasio Somoza's hold on the country had been weakened since a natural disaster struck the capital, Managua, 5 years earlier.
Yo estaba en Managua y el terremoto la destruyó completamente, pero completamente.
Fue lo más terrible que hemos pasado los nicaragüenses. Solo gritos se oían, gritos por todos lados. Nosotros creíamos que era el juicio.
Las personas perdieron el empleo, perdieron los negocios, perdieron las casas. La pérdida fue total. Y en ese momento la dictadura entró en una etapa de enriquecimiento sin precedente.
Somoza se robó todo lo que llegó de ayuda internacional para los damnificados del terremoto y para la reconstrucción de la ciudad.
Y eso terminó de fracturar la imagen de los Somoza frente al pueblo nicaragüense. Es decir, todas las opciones de cambio estaban cerradas. Y la única opción de cambio posible era la opción armada.
No es porque yo quisiera ir a la guerra. Para mí era difícil optar por esa alternativa porque significaba perder todo contacto con la familia.
An armed group called the Sandinistas had been fighting Somoza for several years. Daisy and Dora Maria secretly joined them. In August 1978, the Sandinistas launched an attack that would announce their arrival on the regional stage.
Éramos 25. La mayor parte del comando estaba entre los 16 y los 18 años. Y ya como temprano en la mañana, entonces ya comenzamos a hablar con ellos dónde íbamos, cómo íbamos y qué le iba a corresponder hacer a cada uno.
El plan era tomarnos el corazón del somocismo, que era el Congreso Nacional, el Congreso Somocista.
Todos ellos dijeron sí que estaban dispuestos, pese al peligro que significaba la operación.
The Nicaraguan Congress was well guarded. The only way for the Sandinistas to approach it was to pretend to be part of Somoza's elite guards.
Yo me quedé monitoreando las comunicaciones de la Guardia y esos momentos fueron muy tensos. Escuché que había mucha confusión entre la Guardia y que decían no son de la EBI, andan con el uniforme de la EBI, andan puesto el uniforme, pero no son ellos.
20 heavily armed men, apparently disguised as National Guard troops, shot their way into Nicaragua's legislative palace. The National Guard counterattacked, but they failed.
Entramos como habíamos planeado entrar, pero el tiempo era crítico para nosotros, porque nosotros éramos 25. No podíamos descansar porque no éramos suficientes. Si queríamos salir con éxito, tenía que ser rápido.
Tonight, Nicaraguan terrorists hold more than 1,000 hostages in the National Palace and threaten to kill them beginning tonight unless their demands are met.
Habían varias demandas. Primero, la liberación de los presos políticos y las presas políticas, una demanda de amnistía y también había una demanda de dinero. Somoza no estaba convencido totalmente ni de atacar ni de negociar.
Omar Torrijos se ofrece de intermediador y le dice, déjamelos que yo los saco de allí y me los traigo para Panamá. Y te quito ese dolor de cabeza. El hombre no tenía ninguna otra opción, Somoza. Así que de mala gana acepta.
By late this afternoon, the terrorists, the freed political prisoners, and some of the hostages arrived in Panama. There, the terrorists asked for political asylum, and they said they were acting on their own with no outside help.
Llegamos todos a Panamá, pues tuvimos una reunión a invitación del general Torrijos, de manera que era un primer encuentro y era un encuentro decisivo.
Son más de 4 décadas de dinastía, de humillación y de muerte que ha sufrido ese pueblo desde que en 1930 la Infantería de Marina instaló al primer Somoza en el poder.
The Sandinistas and Torrijos had discussions about how Panama might be able to help them in their struggle against Somoza. They needed better weapons to fight the National Guard that was much better equipped. But Torrijos had to be careful about how he might provide weapons to the Sandinistas. It could bring him into loggerheads with the United States. And so he sent one of his most trusted advisors to Cuba to see what Fidel could do to help.
Fidel, en una entrevista, me dice, tú sabes bien que si yo te entrego armas son soviéticas y eso sí enreda todo esto. Yo le decía, en Vietnam, esa derrota aparatosa de los Estados Unidos dejó el país lleno de armas norteamericanas que ya se les perdió el registro y todo. Y él se le encendieron los ojos y me dice, chico, esa sí que es una buena idea. Y esas fueron las armas que fueron entrando entonces para los sandinistas.
La última etapa de la guerra fue terrible, digamos, pues los años 78, 79. Fueron años muy duros. Fue una confrontación armada.
The rebels in Nicaragua now control several of the bigger cities, are inflicting more casualties on the government's troops.
President Anastasio Somoza admits that his opposition is better armed than he thought, and it will take much longer to defeat the Sandinistas than he predicted.
I want the American people to help me as I helped them for 30 years to fight communism.
For Jimmy Carter, to have propped up Somoza would have gone against all the principles he'd been preaching since the start of his presidency, and so he did not help him. For Somoza, there was only one choice, and that was to flee.
porque es un momento alegre, pero hay también tristeza y dolor. Y yo perdí muchos amigos, gente que yo quería mucho, pues.
Realmente creo que fue tal vez el día más feliz para mí. Me parecía mentira que habíamos terminado con una dictadura. Que hubiéramos sacado a Somoza y que ahora nosotros estábamos, digamos, libres en Nicaragua. Íbamos a ver qué hacíamos con el país.
I accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States. It is the responsibility of the President of the United States to ensure that the safety of our people cannot successfully be threatened by a hostile foreign power. As President, fulfilling that responsibility will be my #1 priority.
Ronald Reagan's campaign rhetoric would soon turn into U.S. government policy. After his victory in the 1980 presidential election, American involvement would expand across Latin America, affecting Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Venezuela, Panama, and Nicaragua.
Que no retrocederemos, que no retrocederemos, que no retrocederemos. ¡Patria libre!